The cry for help, the bridge of the Earth space vessel. Thunderstrike hummed with quiet efficiency as Captain Marcus Steele reviewed the daily navigation reports. 6 months had passed since humanity's latest diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim territories, and the routine of deep space patrol had settled into a comfortable rhythm. At 42 years old, Captain Steele carried himself with the confidence of someone who had seen combat on 3 different worlds before humanity even knew aliens existed. His weathered hands bore scars from the resource wars on Mars, and his gray eyes held the steady gaze of a man who had learned to make impossible decisions under pressure. The crew respected him not just for his tactical brilliance, but for his unwavering principle that no one gets left behind. Lieutenant Sarah Chen, the ship's communications officer, suddenly straightened at her console. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface as strange patterns flickered across her screens. "Captain, I'm picking up something unusual on the emergency frequencies. It's not using any standard Galactic Union protocols." Steele moved to stand behind her station, his eyes narrowing as he studied the cascading data streams. The signal was weak and fragmented, clearly coming from somewhere far beyond their current position. More concerning was the encryption method, something he hadn't seen since the early days of human-alien contact. "Can you clean it up?" he asked, his voice carrying the calm authority that had kept his crew alive through dozens of dangerous missions. Chen's fingers worked with practiced precision, applying various decryption algorithms and signal enhancement protocols. Slowly, the static cleared, and a voice emerged from the cosmic noise. It was clearly non-human, with the melodic tones characteristic of the Zephyrian species, but strained with desperate urgency. "This is High Counselor Lyra of the Zephyrian Coalition, broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. Our worlds are under attack by an entity we cannot comprehend or combat. The Void Swarm has consumed 17 of our outer colonies and is approaching our homeworld. We have perhaps 72 hours before Zephyrian Prime falls. The Galactic Council has declared our situation a lost cause and withdrawn all support vessels. If anyone receives this transmission, please. We have children here. Millions of younglings who have never seen war. We are transmitting our coordinates in hopes that someone, somewhere, still believes in doing what is right." The bridge fell silent as the message repeated, each word carrying the weight of an entire civilization's desperation. Steele had heard of the Zephyrians during his diplomatic training. They were among the most peaceful species in the galaxy, their entire culture built around art, philosophy, and scientific advancement. They had no military to speak of, having lived under the protection of various galactic treaties for over 3 centuries. Commander James Rodriguez, Steele's second-in-command, was the first to break the silence. "Sir, the Void Swarm. I've heard whispers about them in intelligence briefings. They're not like any enemy we've faced before. Some say they're not even truly alive, just consuming machines that turn everything they touch into more of themselves." Tew nodded grimly. He had read the classified reports about the Void Swarm's previous attacks, entire star systems simply vanishing from galactic maps, leaving behind nothing but empty space and radiation signatures that made no scientific sense. The few survivors who had escaped their earlier attacks spoke of ships that seemed to absorb energy weapons and creatures that could reshape matter at the molecular level. "What's our current position relative to the Zephyrian system?" Steele asked, his mind already calculating possibilities. Navigation Officer Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos consulted her star charts, her expression growing troubled. "Sir, we're approximately 48 hours away at maximum burn. But Captain, we're just one ship. Even if we could reach them in time, what could we possibly do against something that the entire Galactic Council fears to face?" Steele stood quietly for a moment, his gaze fixed on the main view screen showing the star-filled void ahead of them. He thought about the Zephyrians he had met during diplomatic functions, their gentle manner and genuine curiosity about human culture. He remembered High Counselor Lyra specifically, how she had spent hours asking about Earth's literature and music, fascinated by the concept of art born from struggle and hardship. "Communications, can we reach Earth Command from here?" Steele asked. Chen checked her systems and nodded. "Yes, sir, but there will be a significant delay due to our distance from the Sol system." Send a priority Alpha transmission to Admiral Harrison at Fleet Command. Include the Zephyrian distress call and request immediate authorization for emergency fleet mobilization under the Humanitarian Intervention Protocol. The Humanitarian Intervention Protocol was something humanity had insisted on when joining the Galactic Union. Other species had seen it as typical human sentimentality, but Earth's leaders had been adamant that they would never stand by while innocent lives were lost, regardless of political considerations. As Chen worked to establish the connection, Steele turned to address his bridge crew. I know what you're all thinking. The Void Swarm has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than ours. The logical choice would be to offer our condolences to the Zephyrians and continue our patrol. But logic isn't what makes us human. He paused, looking at each face on the bridge. These were people who had volunteered to serve on the most dangerous assignments in space, who had chosen to represent humanity among the stars despite the risks. He saw in their eyes the same resolve he felt in his own heart. Humans didn't survive the Ice Ages, the Plague Years, or the Resource Wars because we were the strongest or the smartest. We survived because we refused to abandon each other, even when the odds seemed impossible. The Zephyrians showed us friendship when many other species viewed us with suspicion. They shared their knowledge freely and asked for nothing in return except our companionship. The reply from Earth Command came faster than expected. Admiral Harrison's weathered face appearing on the main screen with the kind of grim determination that had made him Earth's most respected military leader. Captain Steele, I've reviewed the Zephyrian transmission and consulted with the Global Defense Council. We're authorizing full fleet mobilization under Protocol 7. Every available ship in the Sol system is being prepped for immediate departure. The battleships Indomitable and Relentless, the carriers Victory and Freedom, 12 heavy cruisers and 36 frigates will rendezvous with you at the coordinates I'm transmitting now. Steele felt a surge of pride in his species, while other civilizations calculated political costs and acceptable losses. Humanity remembered its debts to those who had shown them kindness. Admiral, what's our estimated time of arrival with the full fleet? Harrison's expression grew serious. If we push our engines beyond recommended safety margins, we can reach Zephyrian Prime in 36 hours. Captain, I won't lie to you. This is the largest military operation humanity has ever undertaken outside our own system. We're about to face an enemy that has never been defeated, using tactics that might be completely ineffective against them. Then we'll have to improvise, sir. It's what humans do best. The Admiral's stern expression softened slightly. Godspeed, Captain. Show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens our friends. As the transmission ended, Steele turned to his crew. The bridge was alive with activity as they prepared for the most important mission of their lives. Navigation was plotting the most efficient course to the rendezvous point, while engineering worked to optimize their engines for the grueling journey ahead. Sir, Communications Officer Chen called out, I'm receiving confirmations from ships across the fleet. The Indomitable reports ready for departure, the Victory is launching her full fighter complement, and the Relentless is loaded with our newest plasma torpedo arrays. Steele nodded, feeling the weight of command settle on his shoulders. In less than 2 days, they would face an enemy that had conquered worlds and consumed entire civilizations. They were risking not just their own lives, but potentially the safety of Earth itself if they failed, and revealed humanity's military capabilities to this cosmic threat. But as he looked around at his crew, at the faces of humans who had chosen duty over safety, Steele knew they were making the right choice. The Zephyrians had called out into the darkness, hoping someone would answer. Humanity would answer, not because victory was certain, but because it was right. The thunder strikes, engines roared to life, pushing the ship toward its rendezvous with destiny. Behind them, across the Sol system, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled was preparing to venture into the unknown. They carried with them the hopes of a peaceful species and the determination of a world that had never learned to surrender. In 36 hours, the galaxy would discover what it truly meant when humans decided that someone needed help. The Void Swarm had never faced an enemy like humanity. They had never encountered a species that viewed impossible odds not as reasons for retreat, but as challenges to overcome through ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to abandon those who needed them. The cry for help had been answered. Now it was time to show the universe what Deathworlders fought for when their friends were in danger. When Deathworlders answer the call, the Zephyrian system emerged from hyperspace like a nightmare made manifest. What had once been a pristine collection of worlds known for their crystal cities and floating gardens was now shrouded in an unnatural darkness that seemed to absorb light itself. Massive structures, organic yet mechanical in appearance, hung in orbit around Zephyrian Prime like cosmic parasites feeding on the planet's energy. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the ESV Indomitable, his experienced eyes taking in the tactical display that showed the full scope of the Void Swarm's presence. 47 enemy vessels of various sizes surrounded the planet, their hull compositions defying every known principle of material science. Some appeared to be growing, new sections even as they watched, expanding like living organisms. "Fleet status report," Harrison commanded, his voice cutting through the tense silence that had settled over the bridge. Captain Elena Vasquez, his fleet operations coordinator, consulted her displays with practiced efficiency. "Sir, all 51 vessels are in formation and ready for combat. The carriers Victory and Freedom have deployed their full fighter wings, and all ships report weapon systems online. However, Admiral," she paused, her expression troubled, "our sensors are having difficulty getting accurate readings on the enemy vessels. Their hulls seem to be absorbing our scanning attempts." Harrison nodded grimly. The intelligence reports had mentioned this phenomenon. The Void Swarm didn't just consume matter and energy for resources. They seemed to adapt their very structure based on what they encountered. It was as if they were learning from every interaction, becoming more efficient predators with each world they devoured. "Communications. Are we receiving anything from the planet's surface?" Lieutenant Commander Park worked his console, filtering through the electromagnetic chaos surrounding the system. "Sir, I'm picking up weak transmissions from underground bunkers. The Zephyrians have managed to maintain some communication networks in their deepest shelters, but the Void Swarm is systematically targeting any surface installations." On the main viewer, the image shifted to show Zephyrian Prime itself. The planet's once blue oceans had taken on a sickly green hue, and vast mechanical structures were rising from the surface like metallic cancer. The famous crystal spires that had housed millions of Zephyrians were now dark and lifeless, their inhabitants presumably trapped in the underground refuge centers. Captain Steele's voice crackled through the fleet communications network from the Thunderstrike. "Admiral, we're detecting movement from the enemy fleet. It looks like they've noticed our arrival." Indeed, the organic-looking vessels were beginning to shift their positions, moving with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for structures of their size. There was something deeply unsettling about their movements, as if they were swimming through space rather than flying through it. "All ships, this is Admiral Harrison. We knew this wouldn't be easy when we volunteered for this mission. The enemy we face has destroyed civilizations that had thousands of years more technological development than we do. But they've never faced humans. They've never encountered a species that learned warfare in the crucible of a world that tried to kill us every single day." He paused, looking around at the faces of his bridge crew. These were men and women who had been born on a planet where hurricanes, earthquakes, predators, and diseases had shaped their ancestors for millions of years. They carried in their genes the survival instincts of creatures that had faced extinction countless times and refused to surrender. The Zephyrians trusted us with their lives because they've seen what humans do when we're backed into a corner. Today we show the galaxy why other species call us Deathworlders. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega. Let's go save our friends." The human fleet moved with a precision that spoke of countless hours of training and coordination. The heavy battleships formed the center of the formation, their massive plasma cannons already charging for the opening bombardment. The cruisers spread out in a protective screen, while the nimble frigates prepared to exploit any weaknesses in the enemy's formation. The Void Swarm's response was immediate and terrifying. The enemy vessels didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they seemed to project fields of pure entropy that caused space itself to distort and twist. Several of the leading human ships shuddered as reality bent around them, their hulls groaning under stresses that shouldn't have been possible. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Harrison ordered. "Don't let those fields lock onto you. Keep moving and hit them with everything we have." The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The Void Swarm fought with weapons that seemed to rewrite the laws of physics, while the humans responded with tactics that had been forged in the brutal conflicts of Earth's history. When the enemy's entropy fields proved too dangerous to approach directly, the human fighters began using guerrilla tactics, striking fast and retreating before the Void Swarm could adapt. Captain Steele found himself in the thick of the fighting, aboard the Thunderstrike, his ship dancing between enemy vessels that seemed to reach out with tendrils of dark energy. His crew worked with the kind of desperate efficiency that only humans seemed capable of achieving under impossible pressure. "Sir, we're not making enough progress," Commander Rodriguez reported, his voice strained as another wave of entropy distortion washed over their ship. "The enemy vessels are adapting to our weapons faster than we can modify our tactics. Every time we find something that works, they counter it within minutes." Steele's mind raced, drawing on every piece of tactical knowledge he had acquired during his years of service. The Void Swarm's adaptability was their greatest strength, but it might also be their weakness. They were so focused on efficiency and optimization that they might not understand the human concept of controlled chaos. "All human vessels, this is Captain Steele. I'm implementing the Broken Field Protocol. Repeat, Broken Field Protocol is now in effect." The Broken Field Protocol was something that had been developed during the Mars Colony Wars, when human forces had been vastly outnumbered by automated defense systems. Instead of following predictable attack patterns, every ship in the fleet would begin operating independently, using whatever tactics seemed appropriate to their individual commanders in the moment. To the Void Swarm, accustomed to fighting enemies, who followed logical tactical doctrines, the sudden shift to apparent chaos was incomprehensible. Their adaptation algorithms struggled to find patterns in the seemingly random human movements, buying precious time for the fleet to press their attack. The turning point came when Lieutenant Commander Santos aboard the cruiser Defiant made a desperate decision. Her ship had taken heavy damage and was falling behind the main formation when she noticed something unusual about the largest Void Swarm vessel. Its adaptive hull was showing signs of strain, microscopic fractures appearing and disappearing as it tried to counter multiple different human weapons simultaneously. "All ships, target the command vessel's central hub with everything you have. Don't give it time to adapt," Santos broadcast across the fleet network. The concentrated firepower of 51 human ships struck the alien command vessel in a coordinated barrage that overwhelmed its adaptation systems. For the first time in the battle, a Void Swarm ship showed visible damage, its organic hull beginning to lose cohesion, as it failed to counter the diverse array of human weapons hitting it simultaneously. The effect on the rest of the Void Swarm fleet was immediate and dramatic. Without the coordinating influence of their command vessel, the other ships began to falter, their adaptive systems becoming confused and less efficient. The human fleet pressed their advantage, systematically destroying enemy vessels before they could re-establish their coordination network. Within 6 hours of the battle's beginning, the last Void Swarm vessel was retreating into deep space, its hull scarred and its mission failed. The dark fields surrounding Zephyrian Prime began to dissipate, revealing the crystal cities still standing, their inhabitants emerging from underground shelters to witness the impossible sight of their world's salvation. The aftermath of the battle sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. News of humanity's victory spread quickly through the Galactic Union's communication networks, carrying with it a fundamental shift in how other species viewed the newcomers from Earth. The peaceful Zephyrians had been saved by a species that most aliens still considered primitive Deathworlders. High Counselor Lyra's transmission to the human fleet was broadcast across multiple star systems, her melodic voice carrying gratitude that transcended species barriers. "To the brave humans who answered our call when no one else would, know that the Zephyrian people will never forget your courage. You have shown the galaxy what true honor means." Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking out at the recovering Zephyrian world, and realized that humanity's role in galactic politics had changed forever. They were no longer just the curious newcomers from a dangerous, world. They had become the species that others would call upon when hope seemed lost. In the weeks that followed, delegations from dozens of worlds began arriving at Earth, seeking mutual defense treaties and alliance agreements. The galaxy had learned that humans possessed something that advanced technology and superior numbers couldn't replicate: the willingness to risk everything for others, combined with the tactical ingenuity that came from evolving on a world that demanded constant adaptation to survive. The Void Swarm had been defeated not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the uniquely human combination of moral courage and creative problem-solving. The galaxy would never underestimate the Deathworlders again.